Hey everyone, welcome to a new week, a new episode of Unscrambled Faith. I'm your host, Megan Clark, and I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. Um, hopefully you have hopefully you have been on this journey with me for a little bit, and if not, I highly recommend going back to at least 2 episodes ago so that you are caught up. Otherwise, don't worry, I will bring you up to speed during this episode. I hope everyone's having a great day, depending upon, I guess, when you're listening to this. But I hope you're having a great day, no matter where you're at, no matter where you're listening to, or where you're at as you're listening to this. But I guess before we dive in, today is a little bit different. I'm recording before I have therapy, so I know, I guess I like to switch it up a little bit. And also I'm recording during the daytime. I normally record mostly during like mid-afternoon, late evening, but I don't know why I decided to, I guess, kind of shake this up a little bit. Also, it's Therapy Tuesday. So I've been going to see my therapist, every other week now. And I normally would typically record right after I go to therapy. However, I can't help but think that this is going to be a heavy therapy session, especially because I am now seeing my therapist every other week, which, if you know anything about seeing a therapist, and also because I've been seeing this person, my therapist, for the last at least 4 years or so, give or take, I'm just so used to going on a weekly basis. So going every other week, there's a lot more to discuss. I'll just say that. There's a lot more to talk about, discuss. I am proud of myself because for the most part, I'm not really keeping it mentally noted. I have been making notes on my phone, writing things down, journaling some things, wherever it comes to mind, however it comes to mind. So yeah, and I figured what better way to record this, especially because, you know what, even though I know that in my heart, I really wanted to stay on track and I really wanted to record this episode last week, it is so important for us to give ourselves grace. It's so important. And whether it wasn't the right timing or whether it didn't feel right in my heart, whatever the case may be, I'm giving myself grace. Just like you should give yourself grace. If there's something maybe that you've been needing to get to and you're like, I put it off for too long and then I'm finally doing it, but then you feel bad for finally getting to it. And whatever the case may be, it's okay. Take a deep breath. Give yourself some grace. You're here. You did the thing. You're showing up for yourself just like I'm showing up for myself. And okay. So here we are. But episode 3. So episode 3, this is part 2, a story through my eyes, a little bit of a different segment than maybe perhaps what you've been listening to if you've been following me for a little bit. But welcome back. Welcome back to a new episode, a new week, because it is Tuesday. So technically it's still, as I'm recording this, it's a Tuesday. So it is still the beginning of the week for myself. But welcome back. So last episode, just to sum it up for you guys that are just joining in now, last episode we talked through the early days of my marriage, the highs and lows, and how therapy became, down the road, became a sacred space for me to show up for myself. So today I want to share a part of that journey, the moment for myself where I began to get a little bit more clarity, retrospective of the realization and really overall, like how I came to a place where I wanted to ultimately choose myself. I needed to choose myself. And I did so with faith and hope and through courage that I didn't like, it's like I knew that it was there, but I wasn't tapping into it like I really ultimately should have. Like I knew it was there, but it's just been in like an daily ongoing uphill, I don't really know if I want to say battle, but just constantly a reminder for myself that I can do the hard things. This is what's good for me. You know, it feels right in my spirit. I'm choosing myself first. And it's almost like this mantra that I just have to keep telling myself every day, every morning that I'm waking up. So when I look back over the past several years, it's like a slideshow. In fact, I was actually, funny enough, I was talking to my mom about this last night, and I was telling her that what's interesting for me is that, for those of y'all, so I am a I guess I'm considered a millennial, but I'm late 80s, early 90s baby. And, if you're around about in that time, so like 80s, early 90s, I can't remember what it was called, but it was this really cool device that you would hold in your hand, and it almost looked like goggles, but it was it was like a slideshow, like visual slideshow. It came with these really cool slides that you would actually like put in through the side of this piece, and you would basically hold it in front of your face. Definitely the older version, I guess you could say, like retro version of the VR glasses or VR goggles, whatever. But this one you actually like digitally, like you held up to your face, you guys, and there wasn't any kind of band or anything like that you put on the back of your head, but you held it up to your eyes. And for some of y'all, you might know exactly what I'm talking about, but there was this little piece on the side, and you kept clicking it, and then every time you clicked it, there was like a new slideshow that would like show up. And it was for kids, so a lot of times there was like animated photos or like Disney photos or Nickelodeon, and just really cutesy, like fun things to look at. And if I'm not mistaken, there was like different type of like cartridges that you could basically put like on the side, and look through them. So interesting enough, because I am a visual person, so to visually put this into retrospect for you, when I look back, or I think back mentally of a lot of the things that I have experienced over the course of my marriage, I think of it as like that slideshow, right? Like I'm holding the glasses, like the device, like up to my eyes, and I'm clicking, slideshow after slideshow, and there's these very vivid moments in time that are like frozen in my brain of not so good things. And anytime that I wake up in the morning, or maybe I can't sleep at night, and I'm tossing and turning, or I'm restless with like, gosh, I can't believe, that I'm here, that I am in the midst of a divorce, that I'm ending my marriage so soon, that I'm at this place in my life at 37 years old, that this is happening to me. Because I don't think anybody ever at any point just goes into a relationship, let alone a marriage, and is like, you know what? I'm going to get divorced one day. I'm going to walk away one day. I ultimately, especially speaking for myself, never ever would have ever imagined that. Like that was nothing that was like that never once crossed my mind. Right. But when I know, like I said, I know in my spirit, and I know this is the right decision for myself. It's the healthiest thing that I could do for my future self. So anytime that I had this moment of like, gosh, this is so tiring, and it's dragging out, and I'm exhausted, and I'm mentally exhausted, and it's just a lot. It's a lot to take on. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of decisions to make. There's, people that, you'll have in your life that want to give advice, and others that are going through their own things, and a lot of times they're going to project those things on you, intentionally or not. People are going to maybe perhaps not say anything at all. There's just all these bunch of moving parts, and keep in mind that your day-to-day, like my day-to-day life, the businesses that I own, the responsibilities that I have, even taking care of myself mentally, right, and showing up for people in my life, and life doesn't stop. It just keeps going, and we have to keep going. I have to keep going. And so in the midst of that, when I'm like, okay, I'm wanting everything to go smoothly, it's not happening. There are bumps along the way. It's a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's a waiting game, either by law, like the amount of time you have to wait for it's finalized, or whether it's all of the paperwork that has to be done, or the decisions that have to be personally made, between you and your spouse, like all of the moving parts and things that are happening that are either out of your control or just tough decisions you have to make. Every now and then there's just this small tiny voice in the back of my head that is just like, this is exhausting. This is too much. You are going to break. Like it gets overwhelming, it gets tiring, it gets too much. But when I have those moments, this is when that kind of like slideshow appears, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And then when those those slideshow moments appear, like these vivid, because here's the thing is like, if you can picture, maybe perhaps you're not married right now. If you think about a relationship that you were once in, a relationship that was a not so great one, whether it was toxic, whether, you and your person just didn't get along, they just weren't the right person for you. Maybe perhaps you had a past relationship that there was a lot of, I don't know, there's just a lot of controversy, a lot of maybe negativity, a lot of arguing. You just didn't get along for whatever reason. But it was maybe perhaps somebody that just wasn't meant to be your person, and you break it off with them, right? Or you're still in the relationship, you're still in the marriage, you're still in the relationship, and you tell yourself, you know what, there are more good days than bad. And you have these moments where you're like, everything is going great. And isn't it interesting how your brain will almost like wipe away all of the bad? It still stays with you, right? It still stays with you because there's emotional scarring. There's, unfortunately, sometimes physically scarring, psychological scarring, right? Like those things are still going to like weigh heavy over you. They haven't quite gone away. However, because of the actions of your spouse, of your partner, it gets better, right? Like you have this horrible day between the both of you, or however long it lasts, a couple days, a day to a week, whatever. And then you make up. Everything gets great. They show up. They start positivity, right? Everything's going great. Everything's going fine. Everyone's happy. Whatever the case may be, right? Like, the behavior of what happens. And then what takes place is it's almost like your brain temporarily just wipes the slate clean of all the wrongdoings. And it's like this reset button. And it's like they never messed up. They never did anything wrong. Whatever the case may be of the relationship that you're in. We've all been there, right? We've all been there. We all have that one person, whether it's present day, whether it's someone we dated when we were younger. And then what happens? You have these friends or family members that are on this outside bubble, right? That are looking from the outside in. And they're like, why do you keep going back to this person? Why are you still with them? Because they're seeing all the bad, right? But you're on the inside of it. And on the inside, you're like, you know what? But things are going great now. Things are changing. It's exactly what I wanted. When I had those moments, when I'm doubting myself, when I feel like it's too much, when I feel like that I just can't keep going on. Because it's just, even though I know that God is walking with me through all this, all the same, it's very lonely. It has been very lonely. So when I have these moments where I'm like, do I have it in me to keep going? Because I'm very tired, and it's a lot, and it's very overwhelming. It's a lot. I go back to those slideshow moments of the things that I have been put through over the last year, handful of plus years that I've been married. And those moments, at least for now, will stay with me. And it's not that I don't hang on to them on a daily basis, but they show up when I need them to show up. Because if I need a reminder of the decision that I'm making and why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm going back to those moments. That's the why. But it flashes by, and all of these slideshow moments are the tears, the anger that I've had. And what's interesting too is that I'm at a very different place in this. I have really good friends of mine, and when I share some of these things with them, whether it's things that are going on present day or, wherever my headspace is at, they're either, some of them are upset for me or they're angry for me. And what's interesting, as at the beginning of this journey, like whenever I first was like, when I'm filing for divorce, this decision that I'm making, what's interesting enough is that I remember praying, and I was talking to God, and I was asking God just to bring peace, just overflowing peace over my life, over my spirit, over my soul, to continue walking with me and guiding me in the direction that I need to be in, but overall bringing peace. Peace into not only my life, but then my life with my husband, peace within our household, at least until we get through this process of how long we have to wait and the journey before everything is finalized. Just overall peace. And I couldn't have asked for more, because that's exactly what I asked for it and God brought it into my life. Because the old version of me would have been very otherwise angry, pissed off, upset. But I have felt all those things over the last 5+ years. I have felt all the emotions. And now I'm at a place where before I would say that it was numb. Like if you would have asked me this maybe perhaps last year, there was a place where I was very numb, where there were things that I should have had a reaction to, or I should have felt a certain way, but I just didn't anymore. I was very checked out. But at this point, it's no longer feeling numb. It's it's a sense of peace. I'm at peace with it. It's very black and white for me. Not to say that I haven't forgot otherwise of the many moments of the tears that were shed, the anger that I felt, the letdowns, the exhaustion, the small wins that I had for myself. I have to constantly remember for myself. Remember and remind myself. And the lessons that I learned, the many upon many lessons that I've learned over the years. Never, ever going to forget those. And I know that my future self is going to thank me for that. And in all of that reflection, when I have those slideshow moments, I feel a quiet but undeniable truth. And the truth is that I couldn't keep living this way. I couldn't keep living this way. Of this unpredictableness of nature, of roller coaster of feelings and emotions, and not being sure of myself, not being sure of my marriage, not knowing where I stand in my marriage, thinking one thing and then it being another, and not feeling safe in my household, not feeling safe in my marriage, and being at a place where I just didn't know my spouse anymore. I didn't know my husband anymore. I thought I knew him, and I ultimately just really don't. And you know what? I owe it to my future self to stop settling. I deserve peace. I deserve joy. And I deserve, more importantly, a partnership that's going to reflect the love and encouragement that I give so freely to others. I can't remember, or I can't help but think about all of the times and all of the moments that I pour into my friends, and I pour into those that I work alongside with, and those that are that mentor me as well. But all of the people that I come and go in my life are the ones that I'm really close with, and I'm just this outpouring of love and trust, and just pouring into their cups and wanting to support them and wanting to be there for them and cheer for them along the way. And ultimately make it to where it's I wouldn't want to say predictable, but that it's constant. That it's not, I'm only going to show up and cheer for you when someone else is watching. Or I'm only going to do something for you, but I'm going to need a favor in the long run. I'm going to ask a favor for after that. What's important, and I've talked about this before on my podcast, is that God sees everything. God sees, more importantly, what we do behind closed doors, how we show up for people without bragging on it, how we show up for others just because we want to kindly do so out of the kindness of our hearts, and not necessarily showing up and showing out for somebody because it looks good on social media, or we're bragging upon other people. What's more important is how you behave behind closed doors. Because there are so many people out there that act one way when they're outside of their home, and another when the door closes. And I tell you what, you deserve and I deserve a partnership that's going to reflect the way that we treat our friends. Because, my God, I don't want to say at the end of the day that my girlfriends cheer louder for me and are my biggest supporters, more so than my partner, than my spouse. It shouldn't be like that. Now, granted, I know that the sacredness, the relationship between myself and my really great girlfriends versus myself and my spouse or my partner, I know that relationship is going to be different, and rightfully it should. It should. That's okay. But what's not okay is when my friends are showing up for me through thick and thin, without asking anything in return, who show up for me on their hardest days, because I've said it before, is that it's a push and pull. You know, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you show up for them. And whenever you're having your lowest of lows and you're not having such a great day, it has to be the other way around. That to me is a healthy relationship, is being so in fine tune with one another that there's this push and pull, that it's like being so self-aware of what's happening with your significant other that they're off. Something's off about them. You may not necessarily need to like fix it or put a label on it, but you can feel it in their spirit within. There's like a shift in your household that something's off. They're maybe a little quieter than normal, or maybe perhaps they're, oh, you know, I'm kind of used to the routine and the routine's a little off. Something's off about them. You don't have to know the answers, but what's important is showing up for that person. And what's even like next level is showing up for somebody, whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner, spouse, showing up for them even on the days when it's hard enough to show up for ourselves, but putting like, it's like less of me, more for you, if that makes sense. Selflessly putting ourselves aside and showing up for somebody. But it's that equalness, right? Because you don't necessarily want to have a friend that is, you're always going to show up for, and they never want to show up for you. Or when they do show up, it's under certain circumstances, or it's on their terms. That's what I want to say, on their terms. Same thing if you're in a relationship or you have a spouse. Same exact thing. Your partner, you should not have to be with somebody that is only going to show up for you under their terms. That to me is whenever you can reach a peak of healthiness in a relationship or a friendship, is when you have this dynamic of, you know what, I'm going to show up for you because you showed up for me. And it's going to look different, obviously, but it's just a matter of just getting outside of ourselves and making it less about us and then more about the other person. Sometimes the truth isn't loud. Ooh, don't I know it? Sometimes the truth isn't loud. It isn't always going to be right in your face. I tell y'all what, the truth was not staring at me in the face for the longest time. And it wasn't loud enough for me to be able to hear, but it was always there. What it was for me is it was a soft knowing. It was a soft knowing deep in my heart that I just kept putting off, and I kept putting off, and it wasn't loud enough for me to hear, but it was there. It was always there. It was always in my heart. And it was that I had to make a change for the sake of my well-being. Choosing myself didn't mean I wasn't committed to grow. And choosing myself doesn't mean that I'm not committed to love and I'm not committed to my faith. It meant that I was committing to my truth. It was ultimately a place that I got to where it was really, like I said, it was really staring at me in the face. It wasn't loud. It wasn't as obvious, but it was just when I ended my journey and I got to this pinpoint where the period at the end of my journey was the truth. And my truth was to honor my worth. And it was just this huge turning point for me to know that I am worthy of support. I'm worthy of happiness. I am worthy of feeling seen and heard for exactly who I am, period. Part of that choice has been very intentional in a way of keeping those close who uplift me and have good intentions. It also means that there are certain individuals that were in my life that I've needed to put distance between. And it's for different circumstances. It could be that I knew that they were at a different place in their life, and perhaps the advice, the guidance, the aura, the energy that they were putting, like, you know, carrying towards me was coming from a personal place of their own. And I just had to protect myself from that. Or otherwise, it could be that they have been through something. You know, a lot of times when you have conversations with somebody, and so many times, I'm guilty of this myself, but so many times when they're like, oh, I could relate to that, or, oh, I know exactly how you feel. Or otherwise, they'll interrupt whatever you want to share, what you're saying, with a story that they want to share that reminded them of a situation that they've been in. And the truth of the matter is that, you know what, we could say that they're coming from a good place, that their heart was in it. But the thing is that in my experience, that when I am in a conversation with somebody and something like that happens, most of the time they're coming from a place of hurt. They're coming from a place that they haven't quite healed from. What's interesting enough is, going back to what I've said before, is that I'm in a very different place with this decision that I've made to walk away from my marriage, to divorce my husband. You hear snoring in the background. It's my parents' dog, and he's in a really good deep sleep. So I don't know if you're going to be able to hear him snoring or not, but it's really cute. Anyways, that distracted me. But the thing is that when you have somebody that comes to you in this conversation and that you're having with them, and it goes in like a different direction, like from how you're feeling or what you're thinking. The thing is, going back to like what I said before, is that I have peace with this decision. I've come to a place where I feel at peace. I'm calm. Yes, there are bumps in the road. Yes, there are things that are taking a little bit longer than others. Yes, there's decisions that are to be made that are out of my hands. Yes, those things. Other than that, I'm good. I'm calm. I'm at peace. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting the journey. Interesting enough, I do have those in my life that are not so calm, that they're angry, that they're pissed off, that they're upset, and they have every right to be so, and I respect that. But I also know that their opinions, that their emotions, their feelings, again, are coming from a place of what they're going through or what they've experienced in the past. Past hurts are being dredged up. Current feelings, current events, it's bringing up a lot for them. And even though I love them to death, sometimes we'll have people in our lives that will project those emotions and feelings on us. And we ultimately have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves in a way where we're having this like understanding of like, okay, these are my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings, and this is everybody else's, everything else. And making sure that we know the difference between the two. I'm so guilty of that when someone shares like their opinion or they're, attempting to give me advice on something, whatever the case may be, whether it's related to this or not, anything else other than this, what happens is that if I have my guard down enough, I almost like will soak it in, like whether it's an opinion, whether it's something that someone's shared something, a feeling, whatever the case may be, and I take it on. And then after a while, it's like, yeah, that's how I feel. That's what I think about. That's what, those are my emotions. Those are my feelings, when indeed they're not. But it could be that whenever that moment took place, I was at a very, very vulnerable moment during the day, during the hour, whatever, whenever it took place. But I take it on as if it's my own. And then it's interesting because it's like, I don't even do it intentionally. It's not even on purpose. And then within like later that day or the next day, I find myself saying the same exact thing that somebody else told me. And then I take it on as it is my own. And even though it's given me quite the headache, I've had to make sure and be present enough when something like that is taking place as much as possible, specifically during this season of my life, and making sure that I'm weaving out, like, this is my opinion. This is, again, like my emotions, my thoughts. This is everybody else's. Like, my truth is that I'm at peace with this, that the decision is very black and white for me, that I know exactly what's right in my heart. Anything else is basically getting like filed away because I know it has nothing to do with me. Now, granted, I know that there are going to be thoughts and emotions and things that have been coming up that are going to come up along the way because I am only human. However, I know at the end of the day, once again, going back to like peace and being sure and comfort and leaning in on that, which is my truth. It's more important it's very important whenever you're going through a season of like this in your own life, or if you know somebody else that's going through something that's relatable, it's important to let go again of like what weighs them down. leaning into practicing like what brings, like for me, it's important to lean into what brings me joy. Whether it's, hobbies that I have, maybe something I'm wanting to try, things that I enjoy currently doing, dabbling in, working on, which is, both of my businesses. Reading, I love reading a good book, whether it's on my Kindle, whether it's a paperback book, making sure that I'm making time for that, even if it's, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, every little bit adds up and counts. Making sure that I'm leaning into a routine, not anything that I'm necessarily holding myself accountable to, but just making sure that there are things that I'm occupying my mind on a day-to-day basis, that I'm moving forward into this next season of my life. So for example, there are a lot of things around our house that we have been, for at least a couple of years, if not longer, needing to go through, right? Divide out, sell, donate, throw away. It got to a point, because once again, no one wakes up and they're like, I'm going to get divorced one day. I'm going to move out of my house one day by myself. No one thinks about those things, right? Like that wasn't the plan, but here we are. And I find myself, making this list of things that I otherwise have been, it's been daunting tasks that I put off for, a couple of years, if not longer. I've made this list and, there are a couple things. I started it at the beginning of this month in November. And every now and then when I want to shake my routine up through the day, if I have, anywhere between 5 to maybe like 15 minutes to spare, I'll set an alarm, I'll choose something on the list, and I'll go at it. These are tedious, small things that maybe perhaps we're putting off that seem irrelevant, right? Now, obviously, there's a little bit more of a push for myself, a little bit more of an incentive because, going into 2-3 months from now, my divorce will be finalized. So there's that end point, right? So there is that, in the back of my mind to where it's like, okay, better to start working through these things now than later. However, it is all interesting at the same time that there is like this healing, that there is this heaviness that is being lifted off of me, accomplishing these things that the old version of myself was putting off for so long. And I'm making sure that I'm being very intentional and not rushing on to like the next thing that's on my list, but pausing and giving myself the recognition and making sure that I feel good and almost like make sure that I'm proud of myself for getting this task accomplished, no matter what it looks like, no matter how long it took, or if it didn't take long at all, but just the idea that I got it done. And it's just like, whew, it's just almost like this cleansing moment, that starts taking place. Most importantly, I'm making sure that I am leaning in to my faith, that I'm not losing sight of that I'm making sure that I'm putting that first and foremost. I'm reminding myself daily that I am not alone in this. There are moments, there are days, there are hours in the day when I do feel alone, right? Because like I said before, even though that this is something that I'm, this thing, I'm walking through this, right? Like there's this different season of my life that I'm in right now. Everything else around me keeps going, right? The world keeps spinning. The world, everybody around us, life keeps lifing. Everything just keeps going on as we speak. But I have to remind myself in those small moments of time when I am feeling alone that no one else is going to understand what I'm going through. I remind myself that I am not alone, that God is with me every step of the way, and that more importantly, his peace is already ahead of me, that he's walking steps and steps way ahead of me. Even in the uncertain moments, even in the times that I may not necessarily feel like he is present with me, even when I do feel like I am alone, and whatever is taking place, whatever I'm doing, I have to constantly remind myself that I am not alone. You are not alone. For anyone listening who might otherwise be walking through something similar, know this, and I repeat, you are not alone. God is close to the brokenhearted. He sees you. He knows you, and he wants you, more importantly, to know and to get the experience of hope, peace, and joy again. it will come again. Peace, joy, and hope will come into your heart, into your life again. You deserve it, and it will happen again. Psalm 34, verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I hold on to that truth. I absolutely love it seems like maybe every other Sunday service, every 2-3 Sunday services that I listen to online. I look forward to when I get to hear that specific phrase, that specific verse, because it hits so close to home. Because it, again, is a reminder for me when I have moments that I feel like I am otherwise by myself, that I am walking through this alone, that it is very lonely, that God is close to the brokenhearted, and He's never going to leave our side. I hold on to that truth. I trust that. I know that in my heart that better days are coming. Better days are coming for you too. God, thank you for walking with us in seasons of heaviness. Help us to recognize our worth, to honor our hearts, and to walk forward in hope and peace. God, I ask you just come into the heart and come into the minds of those that are listening to this story of mine, that are broken, that are crushed, that are feeling alone. Remind them in their heart and their mind, God, that they are not alone, that you are comforting them through a season of their life that they may have not otherwise seen coming. A decision that they're making that is either for themselves, for their kids, for their future self. God, you walk with us through every season of our life, and you ultimately have a beautiful plan that you've already written out for each and every single one of us. Amen. You guys, I want to leave you with this closing thought. Heavy seasons don't define us. They don't define us. But how we walk through them does. Choosing yourself is holy. Choosing peace is holy. Choosing to lean into God's guidance is holy. In the next coming episodes, I want to share with y'all some of the lessons that I've learned in this journey of mine, and how my faith has continued to guide me in practical ways to embrace the healing, embrace the hope, embrace how we can walk with courage and strength, even through the uncertainty. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me during this specific podcast, this specific episode. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that I'm able to be raw, be honest, share this moment with y'all, this chapter of my life, this season of my life, and we're doing it one step at a time because we want to show ourselves grace. I want you to show yourself grace. And as always, don't forget to unscramble your faith and find clarity in the chaos. I'm your host, Megan Clark. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a blessed week ahead. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode.